Hey everyone, I'm NornQueenAlexis and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Adeptus sororitas. So I thought, why not throw on my armor? Granted, I don't have most of it on, as you can tell, so forgive me for that. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about a lot of, kind of my wish list for Sisters of Battle. I have a script with me. This is random for me. I never do these. So I gotta actually hold this out like this to actually see it, because this cauldron is, well, I can barely see past it. Also, this is coming loose. This armor is very difficult to actually keep together without anybody here. So forgive me for that. So, going through all of the stuff that we have for Sisters of Battle, one of the first things that I do have to mention is new Wargear, because my god, the sisters need some. I'm talking about things like storm shields, stalker bolters, Seraphim jump packs, bikes, attack bikes, mastercrafted weaponry, as well as power fists. Now, personally, I don't think power fists are out of the question. In Dark Heresy, you can get them, and there are examples of sisters with power fists. Now, that all said, you're going to see where these things fall into place in this as I go through it. So, also, before we actually fully get started, if you have your own ideas for Sisters of Battle, Wargear, and new units and such that you would like to see, please comment in the comment section down below. I read every single comment that I get. I try to answer as much of them as I can, unless they're like silly, but I digress. I do read every single comment, so be sure to comment in the comment section. Yeah, you know where to do it. This thing is riding up. Anyway, first thing I want, Seraphim. Seraphim need a few more tweaks. This is where the close combat weapons are going to come in handy, especially for the Seraphim Superior of the regular Seraphim squad. I personally think that she should have access, like all sisters, to an Eviscerator, as well as having access to a Power Fist, even though arguably they are the same thing, except one is AP -3 and one is AP -4 with a flat damage. So, that just being said, I think that should be a thing. Now, I want a Seraphim Assault Squad. Now, like the other Seraphim squad, having access to multiple weapons, such as having dual Infernal Pistols, the Sister Superior having her Plasma Pistol and Close Combat Weapon, and another one having the Special Pistol Weapons, I personally think this should be the way it is for the Seraphim Assault Squad. Two of them should be able to take Close Combat Weapons, which can include the Eviscerator, Power Fists, Power Mauls, Power Axes, Power Swords. In their other hand, they should carry probably a pistol, and it would be similar to having 3 Sister Superiors in one squad. I personally don't think this is broken because it's just a strength 4 with an invo of a 4 up. This is the same thing as a Vanguard Veteran squad, except weaker, because they don't have the toughness to back it up. Now, if any of you arguing, no, that would be broken, well, for one, none of you actually exist, but in this hypothetical situation, let's just say, for sake of argument, that you do, and you think that this would be broken, especially with Order of the Bloody Rose, which would make them Strength 8, AP -3, with multiple attacks apiece. Well, to you I have to say this. Blood Angel Vanguard Veterans are devastating. In fact, regular Blood Angel Assault Marines are devastating. So giving the sisters something similar but a little bit weaker makes sense to me. The Toughness 3 is really what balances out a lot of these things in this book. Moving on, Dreadnoughts. I know somebody out there is going to be like, Bridge my lore! I want to point this out. In the lore itself, Imperial Guard have Dreadnoughts. All the way back, and I actually have the Codex that has it in it. Not as an entry, mind you, not as a fieldable unit, mind you, but in the lore, in the book, it actually talks about them imbuing heroes into Dreadnoughts. Now, does it have to be similar to the Space Marine Dreadnought? No, probably not, but still a living sarcophagus that has the same purposes as a Dreadnought for all rule purposes. Toughness 7, a couple of weapons, Maybe even the ability to be a Mortis Dreadnought, so 2 of the same weapons on the same side, like dual las cannon, or in this case, since we're Sisters of Battle, dual twin heavy bolters, dual hurricane bolters, that would be really cool, dual heavy flamethrowers, you know, so on and so forth. Now, I know somebody's going to be like, but the Penitent Engine technically is not a Sister of Battle. Just want to point that out. That is not a sister. That is the Ecclesiarchy. So, you shoosh. You shoosh. The other thing for the Dreadnought could be like dual heavy flamethrowers in Dreadnought close combat weapons, or dual heavy bolters, or meltaguns in the fists themselves. Maybe even giving them something cool like an invo save, or a way to shrug off damage because of the zealot nature. Similar to that of the Penitent Engine, which we're going to get to. Next thing I want is Canoness options. I want a Canoness Commander, a Canoness Preceptor, and a Canoness Superior. And these 3 are different. I want to point this out. Canoness Commander would be your equivalent to a Space Marine Lieutenant. Canoness Preceptor would be a captain. Thank you, Brain, for allowing me to say the word captain and remembering it. The Superior would be your equivalent to a Chapter Master. The biggest difference between them is one leads 100 sisters, one leads 1,000 sisters, and one leads all of the sisters. So to me that makes sense for Lieutenant, Commander, Chapter Master. Now, this one is another... There we go. This one is another troop choice. Sisters of Battle do need troops. And this one I want to be an Initiate Squad. So they're not quite Sisters of Battle, but they still have been given the armor. But they're not crazy sisters just yet. So they have access to the Stalker Bolter, and they take up the same role as Space Marine Scouts. Cheap sniper units. Also with Infiltrate. Reason for this? Well, we have the Primaris Marines with all the Stalker weapons. We have Space Marine Scouts. And Sisters of Battle lack troops, but their troops are extremely good. So adding to them, I don't think would be too bad. Sisters don't really have a way of taking out characters. And that's always been a little bit of a trouble for them. Yes, we can jump over with Celestine, and yes, we can ally in to bring in some stuff to deal with characters. But overall, I would like to see, you know, this come in. Or, you know, if they brought in a squad with Condemner bolt guns, I would be all over that. This one is the Ecclesiarchy. I want Crusaders, Death Cult Assassins, Archiflagellants, all the selections that don't take up slots and everything. All the selections from the Ecclesiarchy having different weapons. Crusaders with power axes, power mauls, storm shields, power shields, and so on and so forth. I personally think it would be really cool to have a Death Cult Assassin running around with dual pistols. I think that would be kind of cool, like 2 Inferno pistols, for instance. Just spitballing ideas here. Next up, Storm Ravens, Storm Talons, and the Storm, the other one that no one uses. The Storm Talon is one of the, not the Storm Talon, the Storm Raven is one of the lowest selling Space Marine vehicles. And it is already in the lore for Sisters of Battle to be using. In fact, in the Omnibus for Sisters of Battle, the last story actually talks about them deploying with them. That also being said, Land Speeders. Land Speeders for Space Marines, just regular casual Space Marines, are trash. But for Sisters of Battle, they would be kind of interesting, especially if they can duel up on heavy flamethrowers. That should be pretty useful, especially as a scout vehicle. And it kind of makes more sense for Sisters to have them than Space Marines. I can go on a huge rant about why Space Marines should never have a lightly armored, open-topped vehicle flying across the battlefield that's really easy to pick off. I mean, you're losing 2 Space Marines to a missile launcher. Like, Space Marines, come on. But I digress. In the Sisters' hands, I could see those being extremely useful. Now, not having the unique abilities of them, like the one Talon Master or the Dark Angels. The Dark Angels still have their cool, unique stuff, but the option could still be there for Sisters of Battle. For the Storm Raven, it's a Storm Raven. It's already with most of the Inquisitorial forces. In fact, it's with 2 out of 3 of them, so kind of makes sense just to give it to the sisters. Just saying. It's with the Deathwatch. It's with this Grey Knights. Why not give it to the sisters? Actually, I don't know if it's in the rules, like for the tabletop rules for the Deathwatch. So that's interesting. They got the Corvus Blackstar, and they used this Storm Raven in lore, but I don't know if they actually have a Storm Raven for the tabletop. Exorcists. Exorcists need a huge update. They are useless. I know a lot of people could be like, but Alexis, you can get 6 Melta shots that go across the field, and if you put a Canoness near them, and then use the Hand of the Emperor, the ability to give them all +1 and then spread it out from her, it's actually really devastating. Yes, except when you roll 3 1s. And it does happen. It does. My change to the Exorcist would be pretty simple. I have 3 different types of changes. 1, D6, but the lowest result is always a 3. Okay? I think that would be fair. I think it would be balanced because the Basilisk, which is cheaper, can potentially get more shots than it and is more reliable than it. Especially being that it has the Basilisk Cannon and a heavy bolter, as well as having a sponsored weapon. So it's already cheaper and has more weapons. And with the Catachan Doctrine, it can re-roll its scatter. It's D6 to determine the number of shots. I think that's Catachan. I could be wrong on that. If I am, I do apologize, but I know that there is one for re-rolling D6s on tanks for their weaponry. So that would be the first change, or a more balanced change would be 2d3, minimum of 2 shots. That way it's still worth its points. Just saying. Penitent Engines. Penitent Engines need a huge update. They are amazing. They look amazing. They are one of my favorite inquisitorial infantry ever. Ecclesiarchal war machines. Let's just go with that. Ever. I think that they are super cool, super unique, and absolutely capture the grimdark atmosphere perfectly. On the tabletop, they're not that good. They're good, but they're not good. They're not worth the heavy slot when you can take some heavy bolters. My changes to them would be pretty simple. Give them heavy bolters instead of the flamethrowers. Give them meltaguns instead of the flamethrowers. Give them a storm bolter instead of the flamethrowers. Just a way to make them cheap. Make their base movement 8. This way they can get across the battlefield. I think it's 7 right now, but 8 is much better. So if you take line, you're moving, that's 20 inches. You only have a 4-inch charge instead of the 5-inch charge. Depending on how your opponent deploys, they might be back a little bit from their front lines, and if they are, the Penitent Engine really suffers trying to get across the 24-inch gap. Especially turn 1. Give them a way to advance and still charge. I think that would still be fair because of how weak they actually are, especially when your opponent starts picking them apart. Yeah. That would be my changes to them. Make them able to advance and still charge. Valkyries. I don't really need to explain this. Give the Sisters a Valkyrie. They are still infantry. They do still fly in Valkyries. Especially in the lore, they still used Aeronautica. They still use the Imperial Navy to get around. So it only makes sense that some of the Imperial Navy vehicles would be in their Codex. Same with that, same logic, the Avenger Strike Fighter. It's not that good. In fact, it's actually one of the worst Imperial flyers. I have one sitting on my couch back here that's unpainted. I was hoping to have my painted one. Oh, it's over there. Anyway, it's one of the worst flyers in the game. The average Valkyrie actually has more weapons than it, and it's cheaper and can transport. But it's still a cool and unique vehicle that they should have in their Codex. Or at least, Forge World should just update it so that Sisters can take it. Drop pods. Somebody out there is going to be like, no, humans can't survive in a drop pod. I don't care, this is a fictional universe, okay? You can have your lore, good job. But here's the thing, they have grav harnesses inside. All they have to do is say they amp up the gravity, flex, bombard, thingamajig inside it. And an average human can fly from space and crash into the ground and not feel any G-force inside because of anti-gravity inside the drop pod itself. And then the Sisters could just kick open the door and be like, hi, we're here. This would make sense to me from a business standpoint. The drop pod is horrible this edition. Like, it's garbage. I don't care how you try to justify it. It is trash. Like, it is not worth taking at all in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. Now, there are some cool things you can do with the drop pod. I just tilted this thing. There we go. There are some cool things you can do with the drop pod, but they're gimmicks at best. Drop pods given to sisters would up the sales of drop pods and probably make them pretty unique and pretty cool, allowing them to rebrand the box, maybe make them cheaper. Not cheaper, easier to build. That'd be wonderful. A type of Baneblade. Like, I know this is random, but I want a Baneblade variant for Sisters of Battle. Granted, they don't really go on, you know, needing this stuff, but at the same time, I think the option should still be there. They should get like a Flamestorm variant of a Baneblade or an Exorcist variant of a Baneblade. I think that would be really cool, where it just has a bunch of Exorcist missile launchers on it, or maybe an Apocalyptic missile launcher on top of it instead of its normal weaponry. Or it can have a colossal Flamestorm cannon, as well as having flamethrowers all over the thing. Like, every single option should have a flamethrower option, which isn't out of the question because the Stormhammer and the other variants, what's the one that everybody uses? The one that's almost as good as the Night Castellan. I cannot remember it right now. But that one. It has the super cannon that one-shots knights. That one can have flamethrowers all over it, which is an excellent option for it. So, I think a Baneblade option would be cool. Moving on, let's add some more relics. A relic banner that has the same abilities as the Space Marine banner would be kind of neat. Allowing the sisters to keep fighting, it would show off their zealot nature. I just like it. Terminators. Now, before anybody bites my head off, again, there is lore to this. Terminate armor isn't unique to Space Marines. In fact, it is meant for humans. It is 100% meant for humans when it was initially built. So, with that in mind, Space Marines have to retrofit the Terminate armor to fit them in it. Not the other way around. In fact, Forges of Mars have to go about making certain and unique Terminate armors for Space Marines. But there are still a lot of Terminator suits for humans. Simply give those to Sisters of Battle. Heavy weapon option in one of them would be a multi-melter, heavy bolter, or heavy flamethrower. I think that would be very good for them. Terminators this edition are kind of garbage. They're too expensive, but overall I think this would be a really cool aesthetic, especially with some deep striking Sisters of Battle. Give them storm bolters in one hand. Maybe the option for a hurricane bolter would be kind of neat. Aside from that, giving them close combat weapons like the Sergeant having or the Sister Superior having the ability to take a storm shield and keep the squad alive would be kind of unique. Quad heavy bolters. Just quad heavy bolters. The little weapon platforms, give those to sisters. Just do it. There's no reason not to. Tech priestesses. So everybody else has a way of healing their machines. Sisters don't. They should have some sort of tech priestess that goes with them. Maybe a sister goes off to Mars, joins the zealot nature of the Mechanicus, similar to how Space Marine does it, and then goes from there. Okay? Pretty simple, pretty easy. Yes, there is lore that contradicts this because Sisters of Battle hate the Mechanicus, but then again, Sisters of Battle hate everything. Give Dominions the option to take bikes. And I'm talking crotch rockets. Space Marines have Harleys, Genestealer Cult has dirt bikes. The only bike left is crotch rockets, and I love them. And if you don't know what that terminology means, it's a sports bike. So put the guns at the front of it, have the sisters leaning over and actually riding it. Like, if I could make this suit fully out of metal and everything, I would totally get a new motorcycle and ride down the road in just this. With a helmet on, of course. They should also have an attack bike variant. Just saying. That's it. I think that would be really cool and really good for them. Bikes this edition are actually pretty decent. Jet bikes are even better. And with that, I'm pretty much out of my list. So I want to I want to ask you guys, what did you think? What would you love to see in this list? Like, if it was actually made, if I had full creative rights over the Sisterhood, what one thing would you really like to see out of the newer units that I suggested? And maybe some of the Wargear options. Please, I want to hear all of your comments about this. I want to hear everything you have about this. Except if you think that I'm dumb and yet that would be rude. Don't do that. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I am NornQueenAlexis, and I love you guys. Bye.